Hey, I'm Joel. Welcome to my brand new shop. I just finished building this brand new shop, and the final step was installing my dust collection system. In this new space, I decided to run 3 main lines throughout my shop, feeding off my 3 horsepower dual canister dust collector. The main line runs across the ceiling and drops down to my central tool island, where I have 2 table saws and a 20-inch planer. The second line runs across the north and east wall and picks up my miter saw, my 8-inch jointer, and there's a drop halfway in between that is right now being used by a small shaper, but will probably exchange in and out over the years as I get different tools. The third line runs along my west wall and is designed to have different tools come in and out over time. Right now I have my smaller 6-inch jointer hooked up to one of the ports, and the other port is open and empty, and I'm planning to use it for my main larger shaper. I'll just put it on wheels and slide it over when I need it, and other tools will exchange in and out over the years. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I think it looks really clean and it's really effective for my tools. But everything I have in this shop is the result of mistakes I made and learned from in my previous shop. There was a lot of trial and error and a lot of wasted money. And so as I moved into this new shop with a clean slate, I was able to apply everything I'd learned in my last shop, save myself some money, and build what I think is a really affordable and effective dust collection system. Let me show you how I set up the dust collection system in my new shop and give you my top 5 tips for high-powered dust collection on a budget. Tip number 1, don't spend your whole budget on brand new machines. The first thing I would recommend doing is finding a good deal on a used dust collector. My first machine was a 1.5 horsepower basic dust collector, and it did great for me. I got it for 125 bucks, had it for a few years, and I only needed to upgrade when I got the 20-inch planer and some other bigger tools. For most shops, that's the kind of machine that I would recommend starting with, and if you can find one used, you'll be ahead of the game right at the beginning. The machine I use now is a 220 volt, 3 horsepower dual canister beast that I also got used. I spent 450 bucks on this machine. It's 20 years old and it still runs perfectly. I did decide to upgrade. It had those old cloth filters on it when I bought it, which can be quite harmful to the shop air quality. So I upgraded to the canister filters. Those were about $300 each. So altogether, the dust collector I use now cost me about $1,000. Of course, a dust collector is not the only machine that you're going to need to build a proper dust collection system in your wood shop. The dust collector picks up the large chunks from the big machines, but you're also going to need an air filtration system to take the fine dust particles out of the air. Those are the particles that can be harmful to your health, so this is actually really important. I found my air cleaner once again used for 50 bucks. I spent 100 bucks putting brand new filters into it, and it works just like new. It even came with a remote. These air cleaners can go for hundreds of dollars brand new, but in my experience, they're pretty easy to find secondhand, so keep your eyes open and see if you can find a good used machine. Tip number 2, don't worry about the steel piping. PVC works just fine. If I had an unlimited budget, I probably would use metal piping. I think it looks great and kind of feels professional. But realistically, 4-inch PVC has never let me down, and it's way more affordable. Where I live here in Canada, it would have been more than double the cost to go with 26 gauge steel piping over PVC. To me, that's just not worth it. PVC is great and it's easy to work with. When I make cuts, I bring it over to my miter saw, and when I fit the joints together, I sometimes don't even use glue or tape. It just friction fits together, which means you can customize it later if you change your mind or change your layout. It's more affordable and it's never given me performance issues before, so I would recommend using 4-inch PVC for dust collection. I know some people are worried about a risk of fire with static buildup in PVC. Do your own research on that. If it concerns you, you can put a grounding cable throughout your pipes. I've never done that and I've done my research. I don't think it's a major concern, but I do take precautions to try to eliminate any kind of sparks in my system. Like some people will have a dust port on the floor that they could sweep up their whole shop and put it right into a dust collection port. I don't do that because I don't want any screws or nails to go through my system and hit my impeller and cause a spark. So there are things you can do to mitigate that risk, but I'm just saying I've never had a problem with that. I think PVC is great. Ultimately, unless you're running a full-scale production shop, I think this is one of the easiest ways to save money on your dust collection setup. Skip the steel piping and go with PVC instead. Tip number 3, be picky with dust collection accessories. Some are essential, but most of them are just expensive clutter. Take blast gates for example. You're gonna need a few of them for your dust collection system, but you absolutely do not need automatic blast gates. I don't even think you need to spend extra money on metal blast gates. I use the cheapest ones I can find, the $15 plastic ones, and I just make sure to get the self-cleaning ones, otherwise they clog constantly, but this is an area that you do not need to overspend. You can even save money on how you attach your pipes to the wall. You don't need like special fasteners to put it on the wall, nothing like that. I just use basic steel strapping. And a little tip, I like to keep my pipes 1 inch off the wall. It makes it a lot easier to connect the elbows in the fittings. And if you ever need to run a cable or something along your wall in the future, it will slide in right behind. Now, one dust collection accessory I absolutely would recommend is a dust port for your miter saw. We all know that miter saws are notorious for throwing dust all over your shop. So I found a great solution from my friend Chris at Benchtop Woodworks. He makes all these custom dust ports for the most popular saws on the market, and I got one for my 12-inch Bosch miter saw. It's a night and day difference. I hate using my miter saw without it. You can either buy it and he'll ship it to you for your saw, or you can just download the 3D files and print it yourself. You gotta do something for your miter saw, and I found this to be a complete game changer for my shop. I don't know if this next one qualifies as an accessory, and maybe it's a bit of a hot take, but I don't think 2-stage dust collection systems are worth the extra cost. Yeah, it would be really nice to have some separation between the big chips and the fine particles, but I think for a hobby shop like mine, it's probably not worth the extra cost. If you're concerned about that, you can get those cheaper cyclones and add those to your system. But I fully admit, I've never had a 2-stage dust collection system. So if you think I'm wrong and they really are worth the extra cost, please let me know in the comments. I would love to learn more about it. Ultimately, dust collection is just there to do a job. It's there to collect dust from your machines. So if you're on a budget like me, don't worry about the fancy accessories, just keep it simple. Tip number 4, be smart with your shop layout. Not every tool needs dust collection. In my old shop, at one point I had almost every single tool on dust collection. I even had my drill press hooked up to dust collection, and that was totally unnecessary. Most of the tools that don't need dust collection go on the far end of my shop. That way I can avoid long pipe runs that add expense and minimize the power of my dust collector. In my old shop, I also had dust collection running to the bottom of my table saw, but I never found it to be very effective. I found myself having to go in and clean it manually from time to time anyways. So in this shop, I don't have dust collection going to the bottom of my 2 cabinet saws. I do, however, have this flex hose going to the top of my table saw, and to me this is really important because that's where all the dust flies into my eyes and my face. And having this blue flex hose right above my saw that I can maneuver around for different cuts really makes a big difference. I don't know if you've heard of Shark Guard before, but they make something like this that I would really like to have one day. I put a link in my description below if you want to check it out. But for now, this blue flex hose works really well, and I put a link to that in my description below as well. Now, most of my advice so far has been about how to cut corners and save money. But for tip number 5, there's one area not to cut corners in, and that's in your shop's air quality. Your lungs will thank you later. We've already discussed that you need some sort of air filtration in your shop, whether that's an air cleaner like mine or a DIY option, or even just a fan in the window. Do something to keep the air flowing and collecting the fine dust particles in your shop. Step number 2 is to make sure you're not using those cloth bags on the top of your dust collector. A lot of the newer, cheaper dust collectors come with these. A lot of the older used ones like mine come with them. This is one area where I would recommend spending a little bit of money and buying a brand new canister filter to go on your dust collector. The other tool I would recommend buying new is a dust extractor. This is different than a dust collector, different of course than an air filter. The third machine you're probably going to need in your dust collection system is a dust extractor. One of the worst culprits for fine dust particles in a wood shop is at the orbital sander. I struggled with this for years, and I identified it as an area that I needed to invest in for my long-term health and for my shop productivity. I bought the Fine Turbo 1 dust extractor. I think it's the best value dust extractor on the market. Besides the price, what I like about it is that it's low volume and it's got the feature where you can plug your sander right into it, which I really like because whenever I turn my orbital sander on, the dust extractor turns on. I'll put a link to it in my description below. That wraps up my top 5 tips, but before you go, I want to give you a full cost breakdown of my entire dust collection system. I had most of these pieces before I moved into my new shop, so I've put together a full cost breakdown of what it would have cost to build this system all at once. Here it is. The dust collector I bought was $450. I put 2 new canister filters on it. They were $300 each. My air cleaner I bought for 50 bucks and spent $100 on new filters. My new dust extractor was about $450 when I bought it. I have about 5 10-foot PVC pipes, 4-inch, at about $30 each, so that's $150 just in pipes. Elbows and wide joints, about $150. I have 7 blast gates, that's about $100. I have 4 10-foot lengths of 4-inch flex hose. These are a bit more expensive, that was about $200. And a bunch of miscellaneous fittings, clamps, strapping, that came to, let's say, $250, for a grand total of $2,500. Now I've spent way more money than that building my dust collection system over the last few years with trial and error. I can't tell you how many 4-inch flex hoses I've bought off Amazon over the last few years. But if I was to start from scratch, knowing everything I know now, that's how much it would have cost me to build my system. Another way to look at it is I built my entire system for the same price as a brand new 2-stage dust collector machine with similar specs. You could buy a brand new machine, but then you'd have to go out and buy all the accessories and fittings to go with it, and then you'd be into more than double the cost. So I'm happy with how my system balances budget and performance, but I'd love to know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about 2-stage machines. Please let me know if you think I could improve anything. There's always more to improve and always things to learn. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I've got more projects coming and would love to connect with you more down in the comments or on Instagram. Until next time, thanks for watching.